So this is me. Just gonna go this fairly fast. My name is Fernando Vasconez. I was born in Brazil. I played video games since 1984. I've been in Texas in 1992. I founded NDV, which is a consulting company, in 2001. I started investing in business actually in 2010. I joined Rovio in 2013, which is Angry Birds. Work on different projects, work on the movie, some games, some promotions, influencers, all that. And I joined Carbon in 2016, actually, as advisory board member. So what we're going to talk about, actually, we're going to talk about fundraising. We're going to talk about money, right? So everybody likes money. I mean, we're all indie developers, and we're all pitching all the time. So this is going to be one thing that is very important when you're fundraising, when you're speaking with publishers. You need to remember three things, right? And three things only. And this is going to hammer down over and over and over again, especially when you're going to talk to publishers. You're going to talk about with angel investors. You're going to talk about with people that you know they have money. They're going to start pitching them and trying to gather money, right? Or get your game published, or get a partnership, or get something actually that's going to get your product out there. So if you think about it, actually, it's team, product, and funding. And every time that I talk to a indie developer, even a developer, I mean, those are things that at times they stress one of those points, but they forget the other two, or they forget one of the points. So if you look about team, and this is one of the things that early on Jefferson was talking about, actually, it's what's the experience, what are the references team? Are these teams rock stars or not? And it might come like, well, but I just started developing games. I don't know, a lot of people, but I'm really passionate about it. So make some games, make some shitty games, make games that at least you get experience. Publish some games actually as a indie. They're not gonna have any downloads, but at least you're gonna have the experience and that track record over there. Try to connect as much as you can with different people. Work for a big company. Get experience on that. Try to assemble actually a team that's going to work together with you. References, right? The more people that you engage, the more projects that you work on. Even if you do work for free, people are going to remember who you are. You're going to have good references. Even if you help people, they're going to do that. And rockstar, which is a question mark, right? I mean, what is really a rockstar, right? But you know, HR likes to say, oh, we need to bring rock stars actually to our big company. I mean, these guys are rock stars. In the end of the day, it's just do what you say, you know, and say what you do. And we talk about the team, which is very, very important because investors and people who's gonna give you money, or publishers, they're gonna look at the team. Sometimes you can have like, and this is talk from experience, not exactly on games, but also in other investments. Sometimes you might have a really, really, really good team, but not so good product, or not a so good game. Still a good business actually to put your money because you're investing on the team. The team can always pivot, right? The product, right? I mean, if it's shitty product and shitty team, is a bad investment. But anyway, team is very important, so try to think about it on this, right? And making sure that you don't have like 7 slides actually when you're pitching, that you have like 1 slide that you talk about your team. Try to put as many logos as possible and go straight to the point. So product, right? Try to have a decent prototype. I think when I look at actually, I'm trying to have like a prototype that is playable, that people are gonna look, and they're gonna have fun with it, right? Know your audience when you're pitching for money. You have your product, you know what's gonna be your audience, right? You know which gonna be your market. I mean, what is the age group? What is this game gonna be marketed for, right? In your roadmap, I'm gonna start here, and I'm gonna go there, and I'm gonna finish up there. And I'm just gonna jump to some slides, and that's, I mean, look at this one. The global games market, right? So you have what? 46 billion in Asia, 23 billion in Europe, Latin America. So you know your market. So when you're pitching for money, you know exactly what is the size. I mean, because in the end of the day, here on games, most likely 99% or 98% of the games, they're going to fail, right? So you're selling a very expensive lottery ticket. So you need to know those numbers. You need to make sure what you're talking about. And if your game is not based on in-app purchases, if your game is based actually in advertising, right, you got to know these numbers too. You got to know actually that is a shift from PC to mobile. You got to know these numbers actually. Why? Because these companies over here, they're going to start investing actually on mobile games. Right now, mobile games, the majority of their advertising is like CPIs, other games. But those guys over here, they're looking to start looking very closely. How do I know that? Because I engage with these guys on a weekly basis or on a bi-weekly basis. So they're going to start looking very closely at mobile games because Facebook, Google, Snapchat is becoming quite expensive, actually. So another point, actually, think about it, right? When you look at your game, right, as an indie developer, you're actually selling entertainment, right? The app stores are making more money than Hollywood on US box office. And let me tell you, I mean, a Disney movie makes $1.2 billion, actually. And there's another stats on global markets. You see how the growth. This is all numbers, actually, when you're talking about, like, for example, your product and your market, right? You need to have them on top of your head, especially when you're pitching, because people are going to remember only 3 things and 3 things only, actually, especially from an investor perspective. So we talk about team, right? You need to make sure that you know who your team or who you are, what kind of, what are references you have. We talk about product, right? You need to have like a decent prototype. Doesn't need to be amazing, but decent that it's going to get people excited. You need to know your audience and your market. You need to know your roadmap. And then the last is like the funding. How much money do you need? And where are you going to use that? How much money for what, right? Because, I mean, investors, in the end of the day, they're going to say, how much money do you need? Oh, I need $100,000, or I need $1 million, or I need $5 million. Okay, what are you going to do with that money, right? Because in the end of the day, the investors, the first thing they're going to look at from an indie perspective, first they're going to see if they like you, right? Okay, they like you, you have good references. Let's look at your product. Okay, the product, it's nice. I mean, I think that it is. How much money do you know? Oh, I don't know how much money. No, you need to know this on top of it. I'm going to need $200,000. I'm going to need $50,000. Or I'm going to need like $1 million on that. And you're going to need $1 million for what? Right? What are you going to use that money for? And you're going to use that money for the product development, for UA. I mean, those are all things that you need to get it. And you need to condense this, actually. When you're doing a pitch, don't come with investors, I mean, at least on the initial conversation, with 8 slides and showing graphics and projections and all that. They're not going to remember because those investors, or the angel investors, they're looking for probably on a weekly basis, 40 pitches, 40 different proposals. They're probably taking 10 meetings. And if you're meeting with the guy which is the head, I mean, he likes you, then he's going to put you over to his junior associate. Then you come up with like a really detailed plan of everything that's going to happen and how it's going to happen and so far and so on. And when you're looking over, right, and this is another term that you need to have on the top of your mind, right? ROI, return on investment, right? So again, when you're talking to an investor, the investor needs to understand that he's buying a very expensive lottery ticket, right? Depending what it is, if it's 50,000 or 100,000, it's a lottery ticket. Because most likely, he's not going to see that money back. And that's the reality. And why? Because he's looking actually on to make 2x, 5x, 10x, or 100x on his investment, which that's definitely not going to happen. Most likely, he's going to put $100,000, $200,000, and your product will most likely fail, right? And he's not going to see, but at least if you're honest from the beginning, like, yeah, this is the potential, but most likely, I mean, the industry works like this way. Are you sure you want to come and play on this? And if the investors say, like, yeah, I'm willing to to bet on you because I like the team, the product. He might not understand games, right? But he said like, okay, the product is interesting, but I'm willing to bet on the team. And then you show him the roadmap, you show him like the product. I mean, really like 1, 2, 3. And then it comes actually on the money. I might need X amount of money. I'm going to use this money for this, right? And the projection of return of investment is going to be that. Why? Because if you're talking about to U.S. investors, and I don't have experience in investing over here on the markets in Europe, right? But usually in the U.S., if you want to invest on hedge funds, right, non-conservative investment is going to give you like 15% a year. If you like conservative investments, maybe 3%, but most likely between 1.5 and 2, or maybe 0 these days, or 1% if you're going to put in treasury notes, right? And that's what investors, they're going to look like. I mean, again, 3 things: team, product, funding. You need to know these things on the top of your head, because when you talk to the investors, you're going to have 30 seconds. 30 seconds to go, like, for example, my team is this guys, boom, boom, boom. My product is this, one tagline. How much money am I going to need? I'm going to need this much money. And this is how expensive is going to be this lottery ticket. And if we win, then you might get a piece of that market over there. Any questions? I think that's it. Thank you.